Tagle, Cardinal Luis Antonio. Thank you so much for participating in this interview. It's a joy to meet you. Oh, I'm so grateful to be here. Let me start by asking you, Your Eminence, about your upbringing in the Philippines. Pope Francis proposed Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, the Archbishop of Manila, to be the congregation's new prefect. Thanks to the whispers, echoes can now be heard in Vatican City. There have been questions about Cardinal Luis Antonio Tegle's actual influence on the Catholic Church's later evolution because of his journey from a humble Filipino priest to a possible pope. He is not only the first Asian to hold the highest cardinal post, but he also skillfully balances traditional Catholic doctrine with modern ideas. Is this media-savvy cardinal making a conscious effort to position himself as the next pope? How has his elevation as pope been received by the general public? Join us as we explore how, in the middle of the tall walls enclosing Vatican City, Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle acknowledges what we all assume is happening inside the Vatican's power chambers. The sound of years of history echoes through the marble halls as Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle moves through them. In spite of this, the Filipino cardinal brings something new to these ancient halls, an Asian viewpoint that is affecting how the Catholic Church addresses modern issues. Since his arrival in 2019, Tagle has retained a variety of Vatican roles. His ever-growing authority is reinforced by every new position he occupies, much like other people collect stamps. In addition to serving in a number of Vatican agencies, he oversees the Church's massive financial resources and directs its global missionary endeavors. In contrast to his predecessors, often assumed their roles behind closed doors, Tagle brings transparency to these high-profile positions. Utilize his position to oversee the Church's finances. He is in charge of handling funds that would leave investment bankers feeling confused as a member of the administration of the Holy See's patrimony. Nonetheless, he supported more monitoring and more open financial reporting. He declared that the faithful had the right to know how their contributions support God's mission during a crucial conference that transformed the Vatican's finance procedures. His tenure as the head of Curis Internationalis from 2015 to 2022 showed that he could manage complex issues on a global basis. In the wake of the hostilities that erupted in Syria and the earthquakes that devastated Haiti, Tagle was in charge of organizing relief efforts that cut over political and religious boundaries. He was in charge of turning Curis from a traditional charity into a modern humanitarian organization, the French government noted. He achieved this by embracing professional management while preserving the spiritual foundation of the firm. The highest accolade that can be given in France, the Legion of Accolade, was given to him in February 2024. Instead of discussing his achievements at the celebration held at Villa Bonaparte, Tagle focused on the volunteers who enabled Catholic charitable activity to occur. In his characteristic humility, he touched the medal as he spoke. Many hands that serve the poor deserve this honor, he said. Tagle attended the National Eucharistic Congress as a special envoy in the months that followed. At Indianapolis Lucas Oil Stadium, the site of National Football League games, he spoke to a throng of 50,000 American Catholics. As he connected the teachings of the ancient church with current difficulties in life, the audience exploded in excitement. His speech inspired everyone in the audience, even the non-Catholic ones. His ability to unseat the Europeans from their control of the Vatican's leadership may have been his greatest achievement. Tagle removed obstacles that had kept Asian church leaders from taking advantage of some opportunities for many years. He was the first Filipino to hold the position of highest cardinal. When he speaks at Vatican gatherings, he offers viewpoints from the communities that will influence the Church's future, the Asian and African communities, which have the fastest growing Catholic numbers. He is a natural person who can create bridges in the context of interfaith discussions because of his deep understanding of both Eastern and Western cultures. His tolerant attitude toward religious diversity has been praised by Muslim leaders. His efforts to strengthen the ties between Catholics and Jews have been appreciated by the Jewish rabbis. Even non-religious organizations ask him for his thoughts on global concerns like poverty and climate change. change. These days, Vatican insiders and international media regularly mention Tagle as a potential contender for the popeship. In the past, it would have appeared unthinkable that an Asian cardinal would consider such a thing. On the other hand, Tagle's blend of genuine warmth, administrative prowess, and spiritual depth has changed the limits of what many people believe is feasible. But according to several who work closely with him, his influence hasn't altered him. B. Hill remembers the names of the gardeners at the Vatican and asks them about their families during the intermissions between high-level meetings. His office door is constantly open to guests. He continues to make it clear that he is more concerned with helping people than with gaining power, and part of his agenda is time for ordinary Catholics. In the complicated world of tradition and change that is Vatican City, Tagle has achieved something that is highly unusual. While advocating for important reforms, he has gained the support of traditionalists. An experienced Vatican correspondent has noted that he is proving that change does not require revolution. Sometimes a smile and an open heart are all that are needed. The world has taken notice of Cardinal Tagle's ascent through the Vatican's hierarchy. What really sets him apart, though, is how he uses his extraordinary power. How can this modest Filipino priest win over people on both ends of the ideological spectrum while simultaneously upending decades of rigid Catholic ritual? Let's find out. A cardinal who rides the bus, carries his own bags, and eats with the homeless kids. Stories about a cardinal who rides the bus, carries his own luggage, and provides food to homeless youngsters are circulating like wildfire across Manila's busy streets. He was sitting just beside me on the Jeep we were riding in, according to street vendor Maria Santos. I eventually recognized him when he smiled and asked about my family. I couldn't believe it at first. It's not a publicity gimmick. Instead, Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle is involved in ordinary tasks. While adhering to fundamental Catholic principles, Tagle has forged an own path in church leadership that deviates from centuries of tradition. Because of his similarities to the current pope, also known as Francis, he is referred to as the Asian Francis. Consider how he handles controversial issues. Even though Tagle is a strong advocate of Catholic doctrines that forbid abortion and the use of artificial contraception, his tone is notably calm when discussing topics that would normally spark intense debates. He once said in front of a packed conference that the harsh language we had previously employed had built walls instead of bridges. When he discusses LGBTQ+ Catholics and divorced people, his tone noticeably softens. He challenged the traditional harsh tone that the church has adopted during a historic speech that left his audience in tears. Addressing the problem of sin begins with defining human dignity. Before we point our fingers, we first extend our hands. Furthermore, he considers environmental conservation to be very important. When typhoons are raging in the Philippines, Tagle doesn't stop at prayer. Instead, he puts on his work boots and goes to work. He has started initiatives that integrate spiritual instruction with practical action, such encouraging churches to plant trees, use less plastic, and create communal gardens. Being knowledgeable about the media, Cardinal is aware of the different ways that people communicate today. Millions of people watch the live sessions he organizes on Facebook, and the videos he posts to his YouTube channel distill complex religious principles into messages that are simple to understand. On the other side, Tagle routinely responds to messages from agitated fans late at night. Compared to most social media celebrities, this is different. He often informs his fellow church leaders that poverty is not a topic that can be handled theoretically. At his offices in Manila and later in Vatican City, he kept the doors open to the least fortunate. Security personnel have related anecdotes about his skipping formal dinners to sit with homeless families who came to the site seeking help. Tagle transformed abandoned church buildings into makeshift shelters for the poor at the height of Manila's urban poverty crisis. By establishing soup kitchens that offered dignity along with food, he established spaces where people could eat at tables with proper plates and cutlery instead of standing in line with throwaway goods. But perhaps the most innovative thing he has ever done is to be willing to acknowledge when the church has fallen short of expectations. Tagle shocked traditionalists by openly calling for greater financial transparency during a heated debate about the church's wealth. He made it plain that we cannot live in luxury and preach about poverty. Some Orthodox Catholics who prefer the church's more traditional customs are taking issue with his leadership style. However, this criticism does not dissuade Tagle. According to him, the church needs to change not because of the truth per se, but rather because of the way we share that message with the outside world. Despite everything that has transpired, Tagle has maintained his trademark smile and relaxed manner. His attentive presence remains constant whether he is having a simple supper with janitors or discussing religion with scholars. Cardinal Tagle shows that true power lies in the capacity to be both strong and gentle in a society where people tend to talk loudly. His ability to blend traditional beliefs and progressive ideas with genuine humility has earned him a unique position in modern Catholicism, as his former secretary notes. The Church's beliefs are not being changed by Tagle. On the contrary, he is changing how the Church shares those principles with the public. A Vatican observer noted that the parish priest rises to prominence in the Vatican. The first time Father Luis Antonio Tagle entered the luminous courtyard of San Agustin Parish, located in Mendes Nunes Cavite, was in 1982. The young priest, who had just received his ordination, had only a dilapidated Bible and a deep desire to help the people in his parish. The parishioners were unaware that they were seeing the first moves of a guy who would upend the Catholic Church's established power structure. His keen intellect and affectionate nature quickly gained recognition. He was able to effectively manage his responsibilities as a parish priest and his role as spiritual director at the Immos Diocese and Seminary, where he trained aspiring priests in a couple of months. When he was just 26 years old in 1983, he became the seminary's rector, raising eyebrows and expectations due to his extraordinarily quick ascension. When Pope John Paul II appointed him to the International Theological Commission in 1997, the Vatican became aware of this emerging potential. There, Tagle worked closely with Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, who would go on to become Pope Benedict XVI. Shouting the loudest during contentious religious debates did not earn him respect. Instead, he gained respect by paying close attention to the opposing viewpoint. One significant turning point occurred in the month of October 2001. Tagle broke with convention in his role as Bishop of Amos. He had no automobile. His life was devoid of luxury, and he often invited the homeless to partake in his simple meals. According to local vendors, they saw him sweeping the cathedral stairs alone in the early hours of the morning and refused to give him special service. But what really set him apart from the others was how he handled difficult situations during the devastating floods that hit Cavite in 2009. Tagle coordinated rescue operations and transformed churches into emergency shelters, working with volunteers who were knee-deep in water. His acts were considerably more powerful than any sermon. When the Archbishop of Manila was appointed in 2011, the Philippines Catholic Church was going through some of its most trying times. Tagle was put in charge of a department that was dealing with problems, including political unrest, poverty, and arguments over the purpose of the church in modern society. What was his response? Efforts have been made to advocate for the poor, engage younger Catholics who were drifting away from the church, and start conversations with opponents on social media. Insiders at the Vatican continued to debate the day that Tagle was given his cardinal's red hat, which was November 24, 2012. He stood out among the aging cardinals as the second youngest member of this exclusive club. He was 55, but the news was not about how old he was. He showed a level of emotion via his tears throughout the ceremony that is uncommon among church leaders. When Pope Francis invited Tagle to visit Vatican City in 2019 to serve as the prefect of the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples, he made a historic decision. Due to this position, Asians were able to exert hitherto unheard of amounts of power, such as choosing bishops for the church's missionary work throughout Asia and Africa. When Tagle was elevated to the rank of cardinal bishop, the highest in the Cardinals College, in 2020, his career achieved its zenith. By his achievements, he became the first Asian to reach this level and ended centuries of European dominance. His influence can still be seen today from the streets of Manila to the Vatican's hallways, where he helps shape the future of a church that serves one. There are 3 billion Catholics worldwide. This phenomenon of exponential growth has not changed his core principles, which include listening before speaking, serving before leading, and keeping his door open to anyone in need. According to one Vatican official, Tagle demonstrates something unusual: authority without immediacy and power without pride. Standing in front of the crowd, he spoke about the Eucharist with such emotion that many people started crying. There was something serene and potent about that moment. An extremely intimate share that made a connection between a spiritual concept and the problems his audience dealt with on a daily basis. It was a very personal share rather than only a speech. His remarks stuck in people's thoughts for a long time after they were heard because of his ability to turn deeply religious ideas into messages that were sympathetic and human. His impact went well beyond the boundaries of any one specific place of worship. He accomplished this by using a television program called Word Exposed, which was aired globally and reached viewers from all over the world to bring theological discussions into people's homes. He took complex theological ideas and turned them into teachings that were easy to understand and useful to daily living. His warm and inviting on-screen persona created the sense that he was addressing each person immediately, offering support and encouragement in addition to religious lessons. He taught a message that went beyond only spiritual ideas. He evolved into a potent social justice activist over time. He repeatedly expressed his displeasure of the unjust treatment of those who were abused and oppressed during his lifetime. In his speeches, he did more than just call for action. Deep reflections on the definition of human dignity and society's duty to protect the most vulnerable were reflected in them. His words were carefully chosen, and they were delivered with such conviction that it was hard for anyone to be unconvinced by what he had to say. People from all over the world acknowledged his accomplishments. Given that he received multiple honorary degrees from prominent universities across the globe, it is evident that his efforts were acknowledged. These awards were given to him as a gesture of appreciation for his unwavering commitment to promoting education, interfaith discussion, and the broader ideas of justice and peace. Every degree served as a reminder of his profound influence, which extended beyond religious communities to include secular societies. A major turning point in his life occurred in 2020 when he contracted COVID-19. Many others who were battling the illness or had loved ones who were battling it found hope in his recovery. Although the illness was challenging, his recovery served as a ray of hope. He provided comfort and a feeling of community by being open about his battle and eventual recovery, giving the pandemic that had killed so many people a human face. Being able to live was more than just a personal triumph for him, for him, for him. It also came to represent tenacity and the strength of faith in the face of adversity. Another important part of his legacy was his commitment to encouraging dialogue between individuals with diverse religious views. During a time when religious misunderstandings and differences were common, he worked very hard to create connections amongst the many religious communities. Due to his method, which was based on deference and a sincere wish to understand other people's viewpoints, religious leaders of many different faiths respected him. His efforts led to the dismantling of obstacles and the promotion of discussions that focused on shared values rather than differences. What really distinguished him from others was his unique combination of deep knowledge and care for the welfare of others. He was equally at ease discussing complex religious ideas as he was offering direct, honest advice to someone who was having difficulty. By using this unique combination, his teachings were made understandable to both scholars and laypeople, creating a welcoming atmosphere inside his ministry, which was built on a life of selfless service to others. As soon as one think of Cardinal Tagle in his current role, the man who can move audiences to tears, build bridges between faiths, and demand respect from influential individuals worldwide, it raises an interesting issue about his origins. Has he always wanted to accomplish this, or did he find a calling that would help him along the way? It encompassed everything from ecclesiastical attire to stethoscope dreams, and no one saw it coming. But least of all is the young Louis Antonio Tagle himself. The young man who had once dreamed of donning the white coat of a doctor would go on to don the red robes of a cardinal and rise to become one of the most important figures in the Catholic Church. On a sunny summer day in Manila on June 21, 1957, Chato, as his family called him, was born. He was raised in a household where culture and religion were entwined like the threads of an exquisite tapestry. On one of Manila's warmest summer days, Chito was born. His father, Manuel, who is proud of his Tagalog history, and mother, Magros, who is of Chinese and Filipino ancestry, combined to create a unique fusion of customs that shaped their eldest child's outlook on life. But Chito's background was more nuanced than it initially seemed. Through his father's side of the family, he was descended from the Principalia, the Spanish colonial aristocracy who ruled Philippine society prior to the 1896 uprisings. However, the story that his grandfather, Flornio, wrote painted a different picture of wealth. The family had to start over and rebuild their life when Chito's grandma was hurt by a bomb during World War II. Chito's grandmother opened a small neighborhood cafe to help her make ends meet. Little Tagle was walking through the hallways of Parent St. Andrew's School. He spotted a Showite missionary who sparked something unexpected inside of him. His heart was gradually guided toward a different kind of therapy, one that healed souls instead of bodies, by the patient advice of priest friends. This took place between his scientific classes and his aspirations to enroll in medical school. An important turning point came after deciding to enroll in the Jesuit San Jose Seminary. While attending the prestigious Ateneo de Manila University, Tagle was free to let his brilliant mind flourish. And he consumed theological treatises and intellectual books with the same fervor that others might consume popular novels. His remarkable abilities were immediately recognized by his professors, especially after he graduated with pre-divinity insights that were well beyond his years. In contrast, Tagle was able to appropriately broaden his intellectual horizons at the Catholic University of America. From 1987 to 1991, he immersed himself in the complexities of holy theology and wrote a dissertation that amazed even his most seasoned advisors. Tagle's professor, Joseph Kamanchuk, would later observe that Tagle had the capacity to become the most talented theologian in the Philippines, if not Asia. This was a potent compliment that alluded to the amazing adventure that was about to come. He spoke languages with the same ease as breathing, rhythms with the same ease as breathing. English and Tagalog for daily life, Italian for church-related matters, and enough Spanish, French, Korean, and Latin to converse with both ancient texts and modern diplomatic circles. His understanding of the world owes. Learning each new language significantly improved the lives of those who lived there. But even though Tagle was becoming more and more well-known in the academic world, he never lost sight of his origins or his nickname, Chito. It is via the use of words that cross cultural, traditional, and developmental borders as well as between heaven and earth, rather than through the employment of processes and prescriptions. The same child who had found himself playing in the streets of Manila with aspirations of going to medical school had found a new way to heal. He painted an image of the man who would become known as the Asian Francis in his early years. He was aristocratic by birth, but humble by choice, smart but approachable, traditional yet creative. Some of these traits were uncovered in his early years. His future would transport him from the busy streets of Manila to the regal halls of Vatican City, where his early aspirations of healing would come to life in ways he could never have imagined. And it took the place of the medical career he had once dreamed of. He never would have thought that this future would come to pass. Thank you for viewing. Please remember to subscribe for additional information that may be of interest to you. Hit the like button and leave a thoughtful comment if you like this video. You can watch another video that piques your interest by clicking on the one that is presently on your screen.